If you're tired of market manipulators ruining your long-term traditional investments, central bank financial manipulation, local bank gouging, political manipulation of money, then welcome on this, the 22nd of March 2018, to the Digital Revolt. I've decided to change the format a bit since just delivering the news can be done by just about anyone, but mixing in developments with opinion and experience-based analysis can be quite useful. So in that vein, let's take a look at the adoption highlights of today. Today I'm going to focus in on little talked about Puerto Rico and how it could become a global player in the new digital financial system. So some key things to note about Puerto Rico, as many of you already know about the devastation wrought by Hurricane Maria that many don't know, is that the U.S. government promised $5 billion to recovery of the U.S. territory, which has already filed bankruptcy and is on the hook for an additional $74 billion in debt. Puerto Rico provides preferable tax treatment on the island for capital gains, which has created increased interest in the island from crypto entrepreneurs. 3, favorable land cost, as the governor looks for ways to find sources of income to help pay off creditors. 4, political ramifications of recent disasters and the advent of crypto heroism. And 5, strengthening of the Puerto Rican banking system with an influx of new crypto colonial capital. The recent catastrophe of Hurricane Maria that struck Puerto Rico in September, decimation of the power grid, slow recovery efforts, and the U.S.'s non-desire to help with funds could support groups who want Puerto Rico to remain independent. Bitcoin could be key to this, as Manuel Laboy, Puerto Rico's Secretary of the Department of Commerce, has said. Puerto Rico is ready to embrace Bitcoin and blockchain startups at a recent conference in San Juan. This is a perfect storm of sorts when it comes to adoption. As opposed to the U.S.'s response to Bitcoin, which is a mix of fear, uncertainty, and doubt-based regulation and attempts by different regulatory departments to set it up for heavy taxation and control, Puerto Rico's approach could be beneficial to its independence and thwart any moves towards statehood by becoming a global leader in the new financial system. Personally, I believe that if the benefits money-wise from Puerto Rico's attempts to gain traction in the crypto space are sent directly where they are needed in Puerto Rico, for example, upgrading the power grid to renewables and bringing power back to the neediest of Puerto Ricans, this will empower Puerto Rico to break free of U.S. manipulation and control and establish a strong tax base to help bring down and pay off debt after 11 long years of recession. Key to this all happening is winning over the poorest of the poor in Puerto Rico. It's been noted in a recent article that many ordinary Puerto Ricans have wanted to jump on the Bitcoin mining bandwagon, but due to the lack of access to power, their ability to begin creating value for themselves through crypto mining, like many have done in Venezuela, has been severely limited. If crypto investment can come in and create the type of revenues that are necessary to transform Puerto Rico's energy sector and allow ordinary Puerto Ricans to begin creating value for themselves and Bitcoin wealth, crypto could be embraced by Puerto Rico and, more importantly, Puerto Ricans island-wide, regardless of class, if it helps to stabilize their economy. This can be accomplished if money goes directly to modernizing Puerto Rico's roads and infrastructure from an influx of investments due to crypto tech. I recently did a report on how it has been presumed that the embattled blockchain Tether may have established a banking relationship with at least 2 banks in Puerto Rico, which has exploded the value of Puerto Ricans' deposits in the banking sector in the last quarter. This kind of financial influx cannot and will not be seen by U.S. banks due to the nature of the U.S. banking system's detest for Bitcoin and rejection of it. This means much needed capital flows in the billions to Puerto Rico's banking sector and a strengthening of its money supply, further firming up the government and the territory. From this time of crisis, Puerto Rico could emerge as a stable, debt-free leader in the new financial system with no need to rely on the U.S. to help in future emergencies, and will be able to nimbly respond to the needs of all its citizens in a timely manner, making Puerto Rico one of the financially strongest municipalities in the world. Who would have thought? In today's highlight in accessibility, throughout 2017, many of us remember experiencing the frustration of dealing with Coinbase and attempting to purchase Bitcoin or any other coin other than Bitcoin for that matter. In this unregulated time, Coinbase was considered a single point of entry for many who wanted to dip their toes into Bitcoin investments and trading. Many of you who have been around for quite some time remember how difficult it was to get Coinbase to add just one or two coins, or the kind of drama that occurred when they secretly added Bitcoin Cash and was accused of insider trading on the coin before adding it to their list and then removing it. Not to mention the shenanigans of Coinbase's slow Not to mention the shenanigans of Coinbase's slow movement on SegWit integration that many of us believe was done in order to push the adoption of corporate alternatives like Bcash or Ripple on the American people. Many of the excessive fees on the Bitcoin network have been blamed on companies like these spamming the network with bogus transactions to make Bitcoin look as though it was not a viable cryptocurrency and to push more corporately backed centralized currencies to the fore. The space rejoiced in January when Robinhood decided that it too would enter the space with its own trading app that would allow you to buy multiple coins. But even Robinhood dampened expectations when they recently announced in February that they would start operation in only 5 states. Many of us also found out that Robinhood would not allow you to withdraw your money that you invested in crypto just recently. Circle 2 has attempted to enter the space by buying up Poloniex to directly challenge Coinbase in the space. Many were quick to find out that Circle's app was intended for qualified institutional investors. Simply put, many of us couldn't participate, at least at this point, in the buying and selling of Bitcoin from their app unless we had a provable $1 million minimum to invest. Enter little known Abra, a Philippines-based money transfer system which has decided to jump headlong into crypto in a very major way. Abra plans on launching on the 31st of this month with the instant ability to buy and sell 20 major cryptocurrencies, which is a relief to most who have been waiting almost a year for Coinbase to add a single coin. Abra plans on not being an exchange, but a full-service crypto entry point, as you'll be able to buy crypto with fiat money, traditional Bitcoin, your bank account, American Express, without adding any fees of its own. You'll even be able to fund your account with cash using a trusted Abra teller for a very low 1.25 to 2% teller fee. It looks as though the competition doesn't just want to compete with Coinbase, but make it look as though it's the Google to their Netscape. It should be interesting times moving forward as even the centralized crypto exchange companies who are challenging Coinbase in very short order start to receive challenges from decentralized exchanges, which are more resistant to governmental regulation and pressure. They will face incredible competition as many decentralized exchanges are up and running now and prepare to do battle with their more easily manipulated and controlled centralized partners in the industry. 2018 should be an interesting time for exchanges in the concept of government regulation. Today, I've decided to do a mix of news of the day and a spotlight on a couple of cryptos and their development. Now that the fear surrounding the crypto space from the G20 summit and possible heavy regulation that could have come of it has been negated, many cryptocurrency blockchain companies are beginning their marketing tour to try to lift the visibility of their projects and increase their value in the crypto space. To many of you who have listened to my broadcast before, you know that I'm a true cryptocurrency believer of sorts and a believer of the new financial system coming first, and not so much a believer in ICOs and centralized coins. Looking out for the benefits of those who invest in coins, I do try to do a little bit of analysis on coins that I may not personally own, but want to educate others in the aspects and developments of said projects so that if you are invested in or thinking about investing for the sake of monetary gains, you'll have necessary knowledge of the coins and not the hype that comes directly from their marketing teams from a true third-party perspective. Enter Zcash. I thought it would be interesting to talk about Edward Snowden and Zcash at the same time. Many of you remember about a year ago when Mr. Snowden made his first remarks regarding Bitcoin and privacy. I remember the first thing I thought when Edward Snowden mentioned Zcash. I thought, he must be paid by these guys to push that coin in particular, since everyone knows that the most private and decentralized coin is Monero. Now, that's not just my personal opinion, and I'm not trying to push Monero, but it's generally the overriding opinion of the cryptocurrency space based on the technology backing it. There was an article out today where Edward Snowden criticized Bitcoin's public ledger. I remember feeling elated in hearing someone in the public spotlight echoing what I've said for quite some time. In Bitcoin's attempt to be accepted globally, it has left its public ledger quite open to the ability of governments around the world to track the movement of money for anti-terrorist and money laundering purposes, which is all a very good thing. But I personally honed in on the two key points in 2017 that would be important in moving forward in cryptocurrency. The first and most critical being decentralization, and the second, privacy. I didn't mince words when I spoke with Bitcoin maximalists of the importance of privacy and how I felt ASICs and the use of such for mining of Bitcoin led to a certain amount of centralization in the hands of a few wealthy mining consortiums. Edward Snowden has been no personality unique to this, as it is clear to me that he's a paid promoter of Zcash. In my opinion, it's just a little bit unethical to be considered an icon for freedom and information, and at the same time, and in the same article, pushing a very centralized, pre-mined privacy coin. But my personal opinions notwithstanding, the points that he made in the article are quite clear. The problem that I have with Mr. Snowden's assumptions are that if Bitcoin doesn't last forever, then what will take its place? A centralized coin? Now, centralized coins contain the same type of weakness that a centralized exchange has, such as Zcash. If, for example, Zcash were to gain market dominance and be the coin of the future, a government would simply have to put pressure on the central controllers of Zcash to make it disappear. As we've seen much of the darknet switch from Bitcoin due to the fact that the government has used the open ledger to basically quash any of the economic ability of the darknet to make money, it has become incredibly clear in 2018 that privacy will be one of the leading issues this year. With the corporate attack on centralization coming early this year from corporate coins looking to attack the mining aspect of Bitcoin and other crypto coins, the same way that they attempted to attack the scalability issues of Bitcoin in 2017 and other coins that we're seeing that surge. Decentralization has finally seen the eyes of the people that are clearly working against it. The proof of stakers who want many of us proof of workers, who have absolutely no problem with proof of stake, have just told, and we've just told them to tread carefully with proof of stake coins as they are not as secure as proof of work, have begun their opening volley on the concept of mining and its usefulness and keeping coins decentralized. But that's an issue for another day. Privacy is beginning to see its heyday as Japan clamps down on cryptocurrency exchanges and exchanges voluntarily dumping privacy coins in order not to raise the ire of the FSA in Japan and many other regulatory bodies in other jurisdictions. It's clear that regulatory authority will be a main issue for the latter part of 2018 as the U.S. has already begun its clampdown on ICOs under the guise of protecting U.S. investors from malfeasance. Although regulatory bodies have had a good precedent to begin regulation, as we've seen many ICOs to be clearly scams, it could come one day that this type of regulation is also used to regulate many of these ICOs out of business due to excessive taxation and overregulation, which makes them behave more like IPOs, leaving the average investor in the dark, while institutional investors, or those who have more than $1 million to invest, reaping the true benefits of early mover investor advantage. protect the poor while helping the wealthy is already a mainstay of the IPO space. This was the reason for the creation of ICOs to begin with, to eliminate this barrier to participate in early development and gains of new companies. As regulations of ICOs are fully underway, the spotlight will be on the government's ability to track Bitcoin movement and its inability to track money using privacy coins such as Zcash, Monero, Pivx, Verge, and others. But back to Zcash. Zcash's first hard fork, Overwinter, is not about the excitement of free coins, but more about practicing the ability to do dramatic upgrades in the future. Sorry, there will be no airdrops here. No free money. Zuko Wilcox, co-founder and CEO of ZeroCoin, which develops the network, recently told CoinDesk that the purpose of this will also be looking further ahead to Zcash's next hard fork upgrade called Sapling, which is intended to help speed up transactions on the network while attempting to maintain the same level of privacy that the cryptocurrency already has. The interesting addition with the Overwinter upgrade is replay protection, without which some users could stay on the old chain after the hard fork and send transactions, and those transactions could be repeated on the new chain, which would have caused major problems. It's more of a precautionary feature than anything else, since most users are expected to upgrade to the new system. The interesting feature that I see coming out of the Zcash camp is the concept of transaction expiry, which will allow transactions to expire after 1 hour. I don't know if any of you were trading or buying Bitcoin in January, but many of us experienced delays in our transaction confirmations of up to 3 days, myself notwithstanding, which was harrowing at best when it looked as if the market was collapsing. Although transaction expiring may sound like a headache, especially if you're emergent, it is actually meant to be helpful to those who might be concerned of loss of funds, or to those who send funds to incorrect addresses, which has been a problem that has afflicted Bitcoin due to its mainly similarly named knockoffs. Zcash, though, isn't depending on this hard fork to bring scalability to its chain, but more so depending on its existing zk-snarks technology, which they believe can make Zcash a fully scalable blockchain, but only time can tell. Next up, the next crypto that has caught my interest is one called Loom Network. I'm sure many of you remember when CryptoKitties was introduced onto the Ethereum blockchain. It brought Ethereum to a crawl because of the number of transactions that were demanded every second. Loom Network has been created specifically for gaming to handle the large amounts of transactions as a sidechain directly linked to the Ethereum blockchain. For Loom Network developers, they can create their own games, and those games would have their own chains, which are called dApp chains. This would allow for ultimate scalability of these games, where you could have a game as big as World of Warcraft running on the Loom Network and secured by Ethereum smart contracts. Since it was listed on CoinMarketCap, it has experienced pretty steady growth and interest from the crypto coin community. While this is not investment advice, I do see good things available for the Loom Network, as it has such a low market cap at the moment, while so much future possibility. Some of the biggest growth in the digital market is in gaming, so this spells good fortunes for this and similar projects. It also allows for the decentralized control of games themselves and proof of scarcity on games, so that if you pay large sums of actual money for digital items, you can be assured that that item is scarce and it is provable on that particular dApp chain. The participants in the games retain full control and dominion and governance over those games, which gives Loom Network a distinct advantage. In the efforts of full disclosure, I'm not paid by Loom or sponsored by anyone associated with it. I just came across it and thought that you guys might find the information interesting. Well, that's everything that I wanted to cover today. If there are any topics that you're interested in, please mention them in the comments. Any ICOs or projects or coins that you want to get an unbiased, realistic analysis from, please let me know. And until next time, this has been the Digital Revolt.